Welcome, Steven, to the podcast. You're the founder of the Healthy Gut Company, and with those products, you've found a very unique solution to that problem. And we're going to talk about that today. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Leah. Thanks for having me on.
Do you want to go right into how you came up with that idea of founding company?
Sure. I'm not unique in that I had a bunch of gut health issues. I've had a bunch of issues throughout my childhood into adulthood, and they were bad enough that my family nicknamed me the Gas Man, and I had a
Oh,
lot of embarrassing stories. And so after college, things were really bad. I was also suffering from other, not just gut problems and IBS related problems, but also some mental health stuff, exercise-induced asthma. I was overweight. And I decided after college, like I was going to, stop the beer and pizza diet, and I was going to try to get my life together. And so I was trying to lose the weight, and it didn't matter what I ate during that time period or how hard I exercised. I still was bloated all the time. I still had, anxiety. I was starting to have panic attacks. And one day my boss called me into his office. He said, "Hey, you're the smelly guy in the office. According to your coworkers, they're complaining, and you have to get this figured out if you want to keep working here." And that was kind of like my big wake up call. I mean, I knew I had a problem, but I thought like maybe it wasn't that bad of a problem or whatever. And so I went into a bunch of doctors' offices in Chicago at the time. They didn't give me a lot of help. They basically said, "Hey, you have a family history of IBS. You have IBS. Just suck it up, kid." That kind of thing. Eat more whole grains. Take any Metamucil you want. And that was not enough for me because I was still having these embarrassing accidents in public and other issues. And I just was sitting there at like 21, 22 years old thinking, how am I going to do this for the rest of my life? I'm in so much pain because I have a particular subtype of IBS called visceral hypersensitivity. And for people who don't have it, they really, no offense, but they really don't get it. It's the best way I can describe it is it feels like a lot of knives stabbing you in the gut when you get really bloated. And it's due to an oversensitization of your nervous system to your basically how full your bowels are, your small intestine, your large intestine. And so for people who have these nervous system disorders, along with the IBS, it can feel like just knives in there. Even so, like I could bloat the same amount as you, but if you don't have it, you will just feel uncomfortable. You'll feel full. You'll feel like not happy with it. Whereas somebody who has the visceral hypersensitivity feels all these knives. And so I was just like looking into the future, and I was like, there's no way I can do this for the rest of my life. And also I started thinking, there's no way I'm alone. I can't be the only person that has these issues. And so that really got me going. I called a buddy of mine from college. He told me about something called the specific carbohydrate diet. It's a special diet that excludes a bunch of different types of carbohydrates that are very hard to digest. And it helped me. Within the first week, I saw almost 50% improvement in my pain and my
amazing.
bloating. And it just clicked on these light bulbs like, wow, I have way more control over this than I thought. And screw those Western medicine doctors. They don't know anything. I was very angry at them. And then I felt a lot of like desire to tell other people who are suffering. And so that's how it kind of got started in 2008, 2009. And then I've been writing and researching and working on my own problems because it wasn't just like they just went away with that one simple diet change. I had to start doing supplements immediately. I did functional medicine. I did all kinds of mental health stuff. And over the long time frame, I went into all different types of areas to try to unravel all these things. Because so I don't have exercise-induced asthma anymore. I don't have a lot of these conditions anymore that I used to have. And that's kind of what's kept me going. And the company's been a iteration of what I've been up to. And then about 5 years ago, I just got sick and tired of the supplement industry because I was searching for solutions. A bunch of stress happened in my life, more stress than ever. And my symptoms came back. And so I reached into my, cupboards full of supplements, and I grabbed bottles that I used to use. And I was like, dang it, no one's figured out the digestive enzyme thing yet. Why have they not done this? No one's fixed the butyrate thing. Why have they not done this? And so that's when I kind of, a light bulb went off in my head that like, hey, maybe I could be the one that makes a better product and does it in a better way for people who are still struggling.
And you did. I think they're really good. And
Well, thank you.
I want to commend you for like trying, because it's really like you're stepping into like an unknown. You think there's nothing better out there, but you just try desperately and a lot of things don't work, but you keep going, right? And the gut health, it can be very embarrassing for a lot of people. So I think a lot of people will see themselves in your story to different degrees. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I feel like my role in this lifetime is to be one of the people that's like the explorer who goes off on lots of dead ends and lots of dirt roads and lots of misadventures, and I get hurt every once in a while. And my job is to come back from the adventures and try to describe what I've learned, what worked for me, what might work for someone else, and hopefully save them time, money, pain, all those types of things.
Right. So let's get into what an unhealthy gut can look like, because there's, of course, many possibilities.
Yeah. Well, the simplest thing is just, does your gut bother your daily life? Like, do you complain in your head or to other people about your gut? If you do, then that's a red flag. That's a sign that you definitely have something not right. That could be acid reflux, that could be heartburn, burping, farting, bloating, all these different things. Having those things that you complain about, that you feel pain or shame or embarrassment about on a regular basis, that's not healthy. That's unhealthy. It might be normal, but that's just a sign of the times and the sign of how much we've gone away from valuing our health, I think. But the other thing that I think most people are not educated on is just their poop in general. There is a chart called the Bristol stool chart that was created a long time ago at the Bristol College in England, I believe. And it's just this kind of like numerical chart with some pictures, and it kind of helps everybody talk about poop without talking about poop. And it helps codify it and give us a scale, basically. And so most people are not tracking how often are you pooping and what kind of quality is it. And so hopefully you're pooping every day, if not every other day. If you're going less frequent than that, you have an unhealthy gut. And then if you're going like more than 3 times a day, you may also have an unhealthy gut, especially if your Bristol stool chart is towards a loose stool or diarrhea, or if your Bristol stool chart is more towards like rabbit pellets or constipated. And so I think the number one thing that people can do, costs nothing, is just pause every day and just kind of take stock, take a journal about how was your belly feeling today? How was your gut feeling today? How often did you poop and what kind of quality? And if you do that over a month or two, you can begin to see patterns, and you can begin to see like, oh, wow, I was just ignoring this, not thinking it was that big of a deal, but like 6 out of 7 days a week, I'm in pain, and I think that can be a nice wake up call, and you don't have to pay any money for that. You just have to give it a little attention.
And so if we stay in that part of the body, so that would be the colon and the intestine, what kind of things can we do to help that part of ourselves?
Well, I'm totally biased, and the research is starting to back me up, in that everything goes through your intestines. Everything goes through your gut to your body. So every little nutrient, from your water to your pharmaceuticals, to your supplements, to your food, it literally has to pass through your gut. And inside of your gut is a really complex, amazing ecosystem of organs and microbes and nervous system. Like there's a reason why normally you don't feel like a life-threatening experience in your brain first. You actually feel it in your gut first. So like if you go on a roller coaster, or if you feel like negative energy, like someone might be trying to harm you, you don't even know what you're doing. You just run, or you jump, or you step back or whatever. That's your fastest brain, if you will. And it's in your gut. It's not in your brain. Everybody gives the brain, I think, a little too much credit, frankly. There's as many neurons down in your gut, and it's its own form of intelligence. And so when you say, like, what can I do for my intestines? It's hard for me to pick one or the other, because actually everything you're doing every day is impacting your intestines. And that is from your emotional state, your stress levels, your hormones, like especially, as a woman in, if you're premenopausal, going through your cycles, just the fluctuation of your hormones is going to impact your intestines. So you have all these variables that are impacting how much water do you drink, what kind of food do you eat. All these things impact our intestines. And if you were to say, like, okay, what are like non-traditional things I could do to help my intestines, I would say they're kind of the same things everybody talks about for health. So go outside every day, go for a walk, exercise. There's plenty of research data that suggests if you exercise every day and you get outside every day, you have a better microbiome, you have a better nervous system, you have better gut health. Make sure you can try to get some sleep. If you're stressed, try to de-stress. Try not to consume too much light on your phone after night. If you can get outside with, just get the sunlight in your eyeballs in the morning. These are all really simple, low-cost things. What it costs us is we have to like deal with our Western world, and we have to do habits differently because we're so comfortable. A lot of these things are about being uncomfortable for a short period of time. And so as humans, we love comfort. I love comfort. I don't know anybody who doesn't love comfort, but some of these things are about being a little uncomfortable. And when you're a little uncomfortable, it actually is like a tonic for your nervous system. It's actually helpful for your nervous system, for your intestines. And then, of course, what you eat and your ability to actually break down whatever you eat, because there's a huge movement over the last 15 years, and it started even before the last 15 years, before I started, around food as medicine, and eating certain diets for certain different types of symptoms, and the rise in pesticide use and GMOs, and there's like a lot of things that have developed in the food world. What everybody is missing is that at some level, at the gut level, both things are true. Like, your diet matters and your diet doesn't matter. Because if your gut cannot produce the compounds needed to break down the food you choose to eat, it doesn't matter if you blessed the kale and you massaged it and you cooked it in all organic and you hand line caught your salmon and you like made this epic local fresh meal. If you do not have the organ capacity to break these down, and a lot of people don't, and they think they do, then all that effort is a little wasted. It's not completely wasted, but it's a little wasted. And so I think there's all these components that go into creating healthy gut, healthy intestines, that kind of thing.
Yes, the restrictive diets can be helpful for a short period of time, but over the long time, they seem to be more detrimental and very limiting for the person, I've seen.
Yeah, and there's research studies showing that. There's research studies showing that if you stay on a restricted FODMAP diet, a low FODMAP diet, for longer than 8 weeks, you start losing microbiome diversity. You start to lose your healthy microbiome. And so on one hand, you're trying these diets and you're seeing a reduction in symptoms. And that's really good, because trust me, I understand what it's like to be in daily pain, have your life run by your gut. And so getting out of pain is important. But but stopping there is the failure. It's the failure of functional medicine, integrative medicine, Western medicine. Everybody's failing to say that's not the goal. The goal is not just to get out of pain. The goal is to get back to a place where you can eat a diverse diet and not have these issues. And in order to do that, you have to start to not just focus on food, but you got to focus on your ability to digest that food.
Yes, let's continue. So we had the intestines. what other organs are helping us digest things? What's the next one up?
Well, yeah, you could say that the large intestine, I guess, is where you wanted to start there, which is, the colon's at the bottom of the large intestine, but the microbiome, the part that we talk about as the microbiome, the gut bugs inside of us, that's actually at the top of the large intestine and the connection to the small intestine. So the majority of the microbiome's in the large intestine. That's why it's so important. And then in the small intestines, where you do the majority of your breaking your food down and absorbing your nutrients. So this is where you absorb your macronutrients, which are fats and carbohydrates and proteins. It's also where you absorb most of your minerals and vitamins and things like that, is in your small intestine. And you have a lot of immune cells in your small intestine as well. Most of your immune system is in and around your small intestine. And then on top of that, you have your stomach. And so your stomach is super underappreciated organ. It's the one that's actually kind of neutralizing a lot of incoming bacteria and bugs, microbes. It's also beginning the digestion process chemically. Research studies have now shown that people who have improper stomach acid, so in other words, they don't make enough acid, you actually want a very acidic stomach. There's all these weird things. As a human, you want health to be simple, right? You want it to be alkaline. Like, I want alkaline everything, alkaline greens, alkaline water, alkaline. No, it's not. It's not true. That's not how whoever you think designed this body, whether it's God or the universe or whatever it is, nature, the body has zones of alkalinity and it has zones of acidity. And if you get those mixed up, then yeah, you have issues, you have symptoms, you probably have the conditions for disease. One of the areas that's supposed to be extraordinarily acidic is your stomach. And so you actually want to cultivate a lot of acid, because that acid, you have microbes in your mouth, and you're swallowing those microbes every day. Those microbes are full of toxins, actually. There's nothing you can do about it. You cannot brush them away. You can't mouthwash them away. You can't probiotic them away. Literally, this is how the body's designed. But when you swallow those gram-negative bacteria, they contain something called LPS, lipopolysaccharides. It's a really bad toxin. Your stomach acid is built to neutralize that. Like, it literally inactivates it if it's strong enough. However, if you're stressed, if you're depleted in micronutrients, if you're not going outside and exercising, things like this, you don't make enough acid. And therefore, you start swallowing those LPS toxins, and they go down in your small intestine. Now, your small intestine has a few defense mechanisms to deal with them, but they're very small compared to the stomach. And you start to overrun your small intestine, and you can create all these other issues around leaky gut and immune system dysregulation, things like that. So the stomach is extraordinarily important for protein digestion, for neutralizing these toxins, and protecting you. And so that would be the next organ up, I guess.
Is there like a home test that people can do, or people need to go to the doctor to assess their kind of stomach acidity?
They can go to the doctor, but unfortunately, most doctors don't do the test, and it's typically out of pocket. So what most practitioners, including myself, say is that you're going to end up kind of wasting your money, unless you're like unless money is not a problem for you, and you're also kind of in a big metro area. You got to be able to find it, you got to be able to pay for it, and you got to be into it. If not, you can just skip all that, and you can get something called betaine HCl. It's a supplement. At Healthy Gut, we make one, but we're not the only ones in the world. There's thousands of them. You get one of these stomach support supplements with betaine HCl and pepsin, and you take one pill with your normal dinner, and you just see how you feel. And if you feel fine or better than fine, like better than your normal, then the next day you take more, and you keep going up in dosages until you feel some sort of either bowel upset or heat or heartburn or something like that. You can take a little baking soda, it goes away, and then you know that your dosage is one below that. And so basically what you're doing is you're taking like a capsule of like simulated acid, if you will, or acid booster, and you're slowly titrating your way up to find the right amount of acid for your body. And so if you don't need that stomach support, you'll know within that first day or two. And you normally can just get a refund from the company you bought the product from if they're a high quality company like we are. And, check that off your list. That's not an issue for you. But if you start feeling better, which is, I would say 70 to 80% of people who have gut issues, it's not everybody. It's really not. And you do have to test for it. But for 70 to 80% of people, it's a really helpful product.
And what else is in your own in your company's HCl? Because it's not pure HCl, right? There's a few more things in there. And can you also talk about why you put those in there?
Yeah. So I love reading old journals. Like I love reading research from the 1800s and the early 1900s. It's really it's fascinating, and I just feel like the pioneers back then all around the world were exploring stuff in crazy ways, and they had no idea, no technology that we have today. And I feel like there was a lot of insights that were lost along the way from that time period. And I remember reading this book about the discovery of stomach acid and how it's not just acid and pepsin. Pepsin's a protein enzyme. There's also intrinsic factor in the acid. And I was like, intrinsic factor, what is this? And how come it's not, no one talks about it. It's not in any products. I don't even, what the heck? Well, it turns out intrinsic factor is kind of like the bouncer or protector of vitamin B12. And so basically vitamin B12 is, it's fragile and it needs help basically. And so when your food goes into your stomach and the acid starts to mix around, the protein starts to mix around, your vitamins start to become liberated, iron, magnesium, calcium, and also your B vitamins. And some of them are fragile. B12 happens to be one. And so intrinsic factors released inside your stomach, it binds to the B12 to kind of protect it. And then down in the small intestine, it helps take it across the gut barrier into the body. And it turns out that there is a subset of anemia called pernicious anemia. And it's not like a huge thing. I think it's only like 3% of anemia. And anemia is not everybody. But it's basically these people have low B12 so bad that they can't make enough blood, basically, or healthy blood, to transport oxygen throughout the whole body. And so B12 is critical for your circulatory system, for your brain, for your mitochondria, for all these things. And it's kind of crazy that if your stomach's not working properly, you will be passing a lot of that B12 into the toilet or to some other microbe, and you won't actually be getting what you need. And so when I saw that, I was like, wow, this is crazy. How come no one's ever put intrinsic factor into a stomach acid product, right? Because if we think acid's low and we think enzymes are low, why wouldn't intrinsic factor also be low? And so that was the theory. It turns out it's extraordinarily hard to get the stuff. There's only a few sources in the world, and it's expensive, and that's part of the reason why I think most companies don't do it. And there's just not a lot of data on it as well. So that was one of the innovations that we did. I think we're still one of the only companies in the world that includes like this full stomach acid mimicking support. And then I also decided to put in a prokinetic in ginger.
What's that?
So a prokinetic is a substance that causes stronger or more powerful waves of the gut. So the gut, think of it like a long tube, almost like a vacuum tube or something. And it's not necessarily gravity that moves the food. It's actually these waves, these prokinetic waves. So the muscles kind of squeeze, if that makes sense.
Oh,
they
the
contract.
peristalsis. It's also
Correct.
called that, right?
Yep. So there's different types of waves. Peristalsis is one of them. There's also one called the migrating motor complex. And a prokinetic is a substance or a drug. It's either a supplement or a drug that helps make those waves better, stronger, more active.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've
And so
never heard about this before.
again,
So
it's a
interesting.
very, It's deep into the gut world, right? It's
Mhm.
part of the reason why people get things like small intestinal bacteria overgrowth or get candida overgrowth or other fungal problems inside the gut. It's because like bloating, like if you have a bloating issue, um, I'm not saying everybody has a prokinetic problem that's bloated, but some people who have that, they don't even know that part of their issue is they're not moving the food fast enough through the body. And because it's sitting around, the bugs just show up and start eating it. They just have a feast. And the outcome of that feast is like kombucha. There's gas, there's pressure. And so that is part of what creates SIBO and candida and other sort of overgrowth or infections in the small intestine. Um, there are drug options that are really powerful and great if you need those. There are a few supplemental options. Artichoke is one, and ginger is another one. And so for our formula, we went with organic ginger, just because ginger has like some hardcore data on it for this purpose in humans, which is really rare for a supplement. And so I really like that. And then people who have stomach acid problems and stomach problems often have disrupted mucosal membranes. And mucus is like this topic that nobody wants to talk about, but everybody knows about. um, you have mucus in your nose and other places, but inside your gut, like literally all the tissues, like as soon as you start swallowing, all your tissues rely on this mucosal membrane to protect them. And if you do not have thick enough or strong enough mucosal membranes, you get things like ulcers, you get things like gastritis and other inflammation, you get microbiome dysbiosis, you get other inflammatory issues inside the bowels. So mucus is super underrated. You want it. It's good for you. It's very healthy for the bacteria. And many people who have low stomach acid, meaning they don't have enough of the acid that they need to do their digestion properly, they will start to develop mucosal membrane problems. And so there's some herbs out of Asia. The Asian cultures are like way ahead of Western cultures and most cultures in sort of like what herbs work best for mucosal membrane healing. And DGL, which is deglycerinated licorice root, is one of those herbs it's used heavily in Japan, and probably other Asian countries as well. I'm just more familiar with Japan. And so we put that in the capsule as well. And so together we were trying to protect the membranes. We're trying to strengthen the peristaltic and migrating motor complex, and then also mimic the stomach.
Awesome. And then I also heard you talk about enzymes. Can you tell us what that is and what they do?
Yeah, so I think like at a basic level, enzymes are all over the place. Enzymes are everywhere. They speed up the breakdown of things. And so that includes wood, like literally a down log in the woods. That's happening, like the leaves in the yard are enzymatically being broken down. It's kind of like at a microscopic level, they're almost like scissors. They're specially made scissors that can cut special bonds, if you will, to break things down. And so inside of the body, there's enzymes in your cells, there's enzymes all over the body, but there's also digestive enzymes. And the role of digestive enzymes are to cut up the pieces of food you eat. And so there's special enzymes for fat, there's special enzymes for carbohydrate. Those are amylase, fat is lipase, and for protein are proteases. And without these enzymes, you literally at a 3D level, at a microscopic level, you're not cutting your food up. Like you chewed it, which is fine. Like think about a walnut. like I can't smash a walnut. Can you smash a walnut in your finger?
No, I can't.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody can. Probably a few people, but you chew it, right? And you take a big walnut and you turn it into a lot of little walnuts, basically.
Yes.
Well, the body doesn't have like a way to take little walnuts up, and the body's got to turn those little walnuts into the nutrition that you've read about how walnuts are a brain superfood and all these things, right? So part of what happens is the acid, when you put these structures in acid, they open up almost like a flower opening up for the sun. So at a 3D level, the acid opens up these gnarly, hard pieces of food And then when that happens, you have all these bonds, and the enzymes come in and they break up the bonds. And then the body is brilliantly designed, and sometimes frustratingly so. It is almost like this is a terrible analogy, but it almost has like a filter or a cheesecloth, such that only certain size particles can get into it. So if your protein is not at peptide level, and peptide is like, it goes protein, amino acid, peptide, and all you're really describing there is the length and the size and the convolutedness of the molecule. But your body needs really simple, small molecules. Like it can't do complex carbohydrates. It can only do basically simple sugars, glucose, fructose, that kind of thing. And so the body's got to turn all these food particles down into these simple, small molecules in order to actually pull them into the small intestine, pull them into the body and use them. Your enzymes are the heavy lifters. They're the ones that are doing that work. They are chopping up the salmon, the walnuts, the kale. They're the ones that are taking it and turning it into very small particles that we can then absorb. And without them, what happens is the body rejects those bigger molecules or those improperly sized molecules, and they go farther down the GI tract. They go deeper into the small intestine and into the large intestine. And when that happens, then you get other animals or bacteria, microbes in this case, that come to the rescue to eat, because they're like, hey, it's a feast again. I didn't know we were having Thanksgiving again. Because I don't know about you, but if you were to throw some peanut butter or sugar or any sort of food out on the sidewalk in front of my house, it would be not that long, maybe a half hour, and like nature would be there. And then an hour later, more nature would be there. There'd be an ant, maybe a furry animal, squirrel. Everything. Yeah, exactly. If there's food, nature grows to meet that food. If you do not break down your food with enzymes and you do not absorb that food properly, the nature will grow inside of you and eat that food for you. And the consequences of that are typically bloating, gas, farting, inflammation, leaky gut, microbiome dysbiosis, and all these other host of issues. And so it's enzymes are like, again, often overlooked because they're not sexy. They're not like, no one's getting super excited about enzymes these days. They're very focused on probiotics and microbiome. But if you don't do enzymes right, it doesn't matter what you do to the microbiome, it's always going to be messed up.
Yes, I think many people probably have the experience that they try enzymes and they don't feel any different. They don't see any or much improvement at all. So I heard that you actually put something a little extra in your enzyme product to help them work.
Yeah, so I had a similar experience because, like, you're totally correct. The fascinating thing about enzymes is that Western medicine, like gastroenterologists, agree that enzymes are important. They will prescribe their prescription versions, all the way down to like nutritionists and acupuncturists and even Chinese medicine. Like all types of medicine agree that enzymes are important and that you need them. But going from theory to practice, when we try to use them in real life, most people are pretty let down. They're pretty like they don't notice it from day to day. Sometimes they do notice it. Maybe they get on a product, they notice it for the first 7 days, and then they feel like it didn't work after that. I had the exact same experience. I took them because it made sense to take them for my conditions and because doctors at the time were telling me to take them. But I didn't notice a lot of benefit alone from taking enzymes. I actually noticed more benefit from taking betaine HCl, stomach acid support. But I took the enzymes anyways because the theory made sense to me. Later on, when I was in practice and I had a consulting practice, a functional medicine consulting practice, we saw a lot of very, very like really troubled guts, like really intense cases. What we would do then is we would have them take 2 to 3 different brands of enzymes, like 2 to 3 capsules per meal. So they'd be taking like $150 to $170 a month of enzymes, at every meal. And with that combination, we actually were able to get a reasonable result with people. Like most people who tried it felt like their bloating got better, their energy got better, their poops got better, their pain went down. But it was a lot of money, it was a lot of pills, and this always frustrated me. I didn't, because it didn't make sense, right? Like I just didn't understand it. It wasn't until later when my issues came back up, I was like, dang it, I am going to figure this out. Like there has to be something. There has to be a connection here somehow. So I was literally talking to people around the world trying to figure this out. And I met a researcher, a scientist in Utah who had filed a patent like 15 years before that, saying one of the reasons why enzymes don't work in humans is that they need more minerals. They need more cofactors to do their work. And this is very technical and it's very boring, but basically what it means is that enzymes need energy to do their job. And minerals have electrons, or essentially energy, that they can donate to those enzymes to turn them on and make them work harder. And so what he did is he created a patent, and he did a bunch of tests on enzymes to figure out which minerals were the perfect match for which enzymes to make them do more work than normal and do more work consistently, rather than relying on the meal or relying on the body, the human body, to donate that electricity. And so we were able to license that patent and put it through a bunch of internal testing. And I was like, holy cow, he did figure it out. And so that became Holozymes. And since then, we've been continuing to soup it up, almost like you do software updates. We do enzyme updates to try to make it better and better, and to continue to stay up to date with the most recent changes in our food, the most recent changes in the population of people that are having issues. And so, yeah, Holozymes is one of the world's only enzymes that contains a lot of minerals. So if you look at the back of our bottle, we contain, I think, 3 times more than anybody else. And there's only like 1 or 2 other brands that even contain minerals, even though they all know this research. They mostly just have enzymes in the product. They don't have enzymes and minerals. And so there's a lot more detail that went into the creation of Holozymes to make it work body to body, day to day. But that was the biggest innovation, was working with him and developing the formula over time based on feedback from doctors' offices and customers.
What kind of changes have you seen with with that product over time? Like, kind of, you started there and that many people, it was working for them, and then now, how did it change?
I would say people liked the first version just like I did. But there was some people who had fat malabsorption issues, so we increased the lipase on one of the versions. There were some people that needed a lot of capsules of Holozymes. Like if they took 6 or 8 per meal in the beginning, they would feel better, but they didn't want to take that many capsules. So I went through and increased the various enzymes that break down complex carbohydrates, like invertase and sucrase, as is invertase. Those are interchangeable. But we added more cellulase. We added alpha-galactidase. Alpha-galactidase is the enzyme in Beano, if people are familiar with Beano.
Yes, heard about it.
It's a studied enzyme. Beano is just basically a bunch of really, really junky fillers and binders and coating agents, and then alpha-galactidase, an enzyme. And so we just took the exact same amount of milligrams from the Beano studies and put it in Holozyme without all the extra shellac and coloring and all lactose and all the other stuff that's in there. So that was one of the changes we made. After that, we added another change we added for xylanase. Xylanase is a enzyme, a specialty enzyme that helps break down polyphenols. And a lot of people, especially kids with autism or other developmental issues, they have trouble with polyphenol breakdown and absorption.
Can you just
xylanase
also explain what polyphenols are? Just so everybody knows.
So polyphenols are the brightly colored pigments you see in vegetables and fruits. So they're very complex colors, basically, but it's not just coloring. They actually contain all these amazing compounds, and these amazing compounds are they end up being anti-inflammatory for us. They end up feeding the good microbiome inside of us. And so polyphenols are extraordinarily healthful and important for human health. It's actually one of the reasons why people say, eat your vegetables, eat your fruit. It's for these colorful compounds.
I did get a link for your company. So for my viewers, there will be a discount code, which is called Better Way for 15% off. And how about I'll just tell you the names and you tell them in a few sentences what those products do. So the first one is called TriX.
Sure. Yeah. Tributane X is our butyrate product. We think it's the most bioavailable. It's the one that's going to be targeted delivery to your microbiome. We have a proprietary pure source out of Spain, and a true enteric capsule. So butyrate's what you'd want to use if you have leaky gut, food sensitivities, histamine issues, mucosal issues. It's a really, really potent and great product.
Awesome. Then we also have Holozyme, which we already talked about a little bit, but 2 sentences maybe.
Sure. Our Holozyme is our premier enzyme there with the cofactors and everything. It's built for people with food sensitivities. It's built for people with really sensitive guts, and it really can be a game changer for a lot of people.
And then we also have HoloImmune.
Yeah, HoloImmune, we are the only company in the world that has a multi-strain paraprobiotic. HoloImmune is a probiotic filled with dead probiotics only, and beta-glucans. And the goal with HoloImmune is to retrain your immune system to work with our crazy world that we have today. So if you have environmental allergies, food sensitivities, hay fever, rashes, acne, skin-related issues, all the strains have been studied for various types of issues there. And it works almost exclusively on the immune system versus a lot of other live probiotics. Those are more designed to work on your gut and maybe your microbiome.
Interesting. Awesome. Any last words for your viewers?
No, thanks for having me on. This was fun.
Oh, thank you. The link will be down below. And Steven, thank you for coming on the podcast. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, Leah.